Thank you, Chair. There was a comment before about an additional board member that has subsequently been appointed because one of the original 8 dropped away or resigned or stood down.
Yes, correct.
Right, and that was done through this process that was obviously outside of the NGS global procedures. It was done in a similar way to Mr Thompson. Is that correct?
It was done with the departmental advice, the Department of Finance and the Department of Industry's advice to ministers, and then through the usual cabinet process for significant appointments. And so we would have done exactly the same sort of process of scanning, using all the available information we have, what were the skills requirements, people's availability and the like, conflicts of interest, all the rest, and that we did not use an external service for that appointment either.
Are there documents available that demonstrate that a due diligence was done for that candidate?
Yes.
But not for Mr Thompson?
Correct.
Okay. Can I ask then, the department told the ANAO that the due diligence check done on Mr Thompson was undertaken in, and I'm using their words, compressed timeframes. Why were the timeframes compressed?
The timelines will depend on sequence and timing of subsequent decision making, and so from recollection it was a requirement to ensure we met deadlines for cabinet consideration. Right,
so they were deadlines that were set by you, Ms Quinn? They were deadlines set by the Minister's office. Where did the deadlines come from?
It would have been for us to meet the deadlines required of cabinet consideration, which have timelines and the like. It would have been a request from the Minister office, probably,
so
that they wanted to target the delivery of information to a particular cabinet timing, and so that's usually how things work, is that there's a standard set of requirements from our cabinet coordination colleagues about how much information and time to be able to meet cabinet processes, and we would have tried to meet those deadlines.
Was the reason why the documentation for the due diligence doesn't exist because it was a rushed process?
I would say that it's more to do with a misstep in our internal processes and in terms of recording the note for file, and so that's more to do with the individual circumstances of the people involved in the process.
The ANAO also said that department did not document the due diligence checks. That was all verbal, which is an unusual one. Why was it all verbal?
To go back to the process, the individuals that were running the process at the time, and they made decisions to do it in a certain way. Our standard processes are to record it for normal standard processes. From time to time, processes are not met.
Okay, so you just said the individuals made a decision to conduct this a certain way. Did nobody sort of in the department go, hey, this is not quite right, this doesn't feel right? Any concerns raised?
So we have processes and timelines and steps that we ask people to follow. It is not unusual in a department of more than 3,000 people that from time to time some of those steps are missed.
Okay, so the board members, the original 8 were taken to Cabinet. They were a Cabinet decision. The 9th, Mr Thompson, was also a decision taken by Cabinet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. How would you describe, Ms Quinn, the process to check on Mr Thompson? Just considering all the things that we've just spoken about.
So my understanding is the usual processes were followed. All the steps that were required were done.
So it wasn't unusual?
All the steps required of a cabinet process were done. All the paperwork, all the checks, all the information that was required by decision makers was available to decision makers.
Well, hang on, you just said all the paperwork was available, but clearly it wasn't available because the ANAO said where was the paperwork?
All the paperwork required for Cabinet was available at the time of Cabinet.
Well, hang on, that just means all that the Cabinet submissions were ready to go.
And all the information required in the Cabinet submission, which is around the education requirements, the conflicts of interest, how the appointment meets the legislative requirements. So the Cabinet handbook sets out the information required for significant decisions. All of that information was available at the time that Cabinet...
So I would assume that the Cabinet submission said, has all the appropriate due diligence been done? And somebody says, yes, check, tick.
And there are also additional requirements in terms of formal CVs, conflicts of interest. There's a sort of sequence of paperwork that is required for all appointments made by Cabinet and all other appointments made by ministers or departmental appointments. All of that was done. The step that was missed in the process was a recording of the due diligence at the time the advice was provided to the minister.
Okay. Minister, having heard this evidence from your own officials, so Mr Thompson was appointed to the board, which oversees $15 billion worth of taxpayer funds, and that this process was seen as inadequate by the ANAO, what would you like to say? Do you have comment on that?
Two comments. Firstly, you've heard the evidence from the Secretary and Ms Pickworth about the steps that were undertaken here. And, you know, actually I don't... your opening comment about how one should approach the Australian National Audit Office, I don't agree with. I actually think that the process of good government involves being very open with the ANAO, welcoming their intervention, doing the sort of iterative process that goes on. But I mean, I've observed this for a while now. Haven't been around the joint as long as you, but been in and out of government on different sides of the estimates table. Been engaged from opposition on ANAO reports that are critical of the previous government. I actually think my observation is the right culture is welcoming that process and, as the Secretary's indicated, being very precise about what has been recommended here by the ANAO, which is that the process within the department was adequate. There's a step about how I've forgotten the term, but the sort of due diligence, desktop diligence or whatever it's called, process was documented. The department's engaged with that finding in a way that gives me real confidence that the culture is right within the department in terms of the way that they engage with those sorts of approaches, like not having a glass jaw about it, just listening to it. It's not it's in no way a fatal observation. It's a helpful observation. Secondly, I'm very confident about this board. Very confident about this board, its leadership, the CEO, the management, the investment capability that it's developing. It is, as you say, $15 billion that gets capitalised over time. They will be here to give evidence later today.
Yep.
I've been very engaged with the management and leadership of the organisation. I've met with the board once. I'm meeting with them again shortly. Issued a statement of expectations. They're responding to it very well. Like, I'm very enthusiastic about the work that this organisation has in front of it.
Okay. Is Mr Thompson a mate of yours, Senator?
He is well known to me. He's somebody who I worked with in my previous role. He's well known across the manufacturing sector and government. In fact, was well known in the previous government too. I think.
You mentioned him in your maiden speech.
I'll come to that. Don't worry. The there's a sort of brotherhood and sisterhood of previous industry ministers. I was talking to one of them in the previous government who appointed Mr Thompson to a board and was very engaged with him on matters of policy that went to rail and defence capability in Australia. He's a very experienced,
you were in the same union together.
well-regarded figure in Australian manufacturing, and it wouldn't come as a surprise to anybody really that he's going to play a good role on this board. He's not the only figure with a trade union background. The board's a very well balanced board with all sorts of capabilities across venture capital and emerging technology, the trade union movement, board experience more broadly. I'm very confident about how this board and each of its members is going to engage with the challenges. And of course, I've known Mr Thompson for quite some time. As you say, I worked with him, and as you indicated before, top marks for research. I haven't been shy about that. I indicated to him, along with a series of other officials in that union that I worked with over many, many years, and I do have a very high regard for his capability.
I have two more questions, Chair. Did you, Minister, discuss Mr Thompson joining the board of the National Reconstruction Fund Corporation with Minister Husick or with Minister Husick's office prior to Mr Thompson's appointment? There's two answers to that, I suppose. One is
one's
the truth.
They're both the truth. We're not that late in the night where people start to accuse each other of misrepresenting the position. The first is I'm not. I just actually don't recall. But the second is one of the things about being an assistant minister is you don't get to go to cabinet. You don't. Your work is directed really by the senior minister, but you're bound by the same obligations.
So do you think Mr Husick knew that he was a mate of yours?
Did Mr Husick know? I'm very confident that it was well known to anybody who's got even the most passing engagement with the Labor movement or the Labor Party or the trade union movement that I and Mr Thompson emerged from the same trade union background, and I think that's what wasn't a surprise to former Senator Hughes when she was asking me the same questions, or anybody else.
Did you lobby Mr Husick? Did you lobby Minister Gallagher? Did you lobby the Prime Minister about the appointment of Mr Thompson to this very prestigious position?
As I indicated, it's a cabinet appointment process. The process has been outlined in terms of the department's engagement with this. It's a cabinet process.
If he was so qualified, why weren't the same processes followed for Mr Thompson as they were for the 8 others?
Well, it's a cabinet process that I'm restrained from engaging with the committee in terms of for that reason, but also it was an appointment that was taken to cabinet.
When did you find out that this appointment was being taken to cabinet? After the decision was made or before?
Well, I don't. As an assistant minister, I don't have access to the cabinet processes.
Did you have access? Did you know that Mr Thompson was being considered for this appointment before the cabinet decision was made?
I think the engagements and discussions between ministers and the government around appointments is a cabinet process.
Well, hang on. You're saying it's nothing to do with you, but then you're saying that it potentially was something to do with you.
Well, what I'm saying is it's a cabinet process. I think he's a very fine appointment.
I'm not doubting his qualifications. I'm doubting the process that put him there and why he wasn't there in the first place. And he was a subsequent appointment, and he's a mate of yours. It just doesn't smell right. Well, all the due diligence has disappeared. The ANAO has said this is inadequate. This just sounds like jobs for mates.
Well, what it sounds like.
We're going to have to rotate the call because we're running quite over time.
I think we're running interference, Chair.
Well,
It's been more than 14 minutes now. So, Senator McDonald?
I'm happy to cede my time to Senator...
Well, I'll go to Senator Pocock then because he's also on the list.
I think that is interference.
I might just respond if I can, Chair, just to that question. What it sounds like to me is that we have a very highly qualified board with a proper appointment process and a very ambitious agenda for this government in manufacturing. Billions of dollars worth of support, and the coalition questions so far over the course of the last half an hour have focused upon the sort of outrage at the appointment of somebody from the trade union movement to a committee, and Senator McDonald complaining about photocopying costs.
Well, that's not true.
Like,
in fact,
it's just
the
got to get serious.
that have pointed out the inadequacy of this process. The Auditor-General has pointed out the inadequacy of this process. It wasn't me. It was the Auditor-General.
Well, the Auditor-General, the ANAO, said that the appointment process was sound. That's what they said.
They said it was rushed. They said it was compressed time frames, that the documents didn't exist, and that it was all done verbally, and it wasn't done as part of the original 8 appointments. This just does not add up.
That is completely incorrect. That is completely incorrect.
It is documented.
They did not say that it was all verbal.
It did.
You heard the Secretary's...
Compressed time frames, this was all verbal. Paragraph 2.51.
You heard the Secretary's account of the process and the documentation of that approach and the lack of documentation about the due diligence step and what that step was involved. Well, sorry, got the sentence the wrong way around. What was involved in undertaking that step, and the fact that undertaking that step wasn't documented in the way that it normally would have been, but it was reported on and provided the basis for advice that was provided to government about that appointment. So,
Chair, my very last question on this, and I promise I will shut up shop.
Okay, and then we will need to rotate the call.
A basic desktop check, a basic desktop due diligence, which is what the department said that they did, I have done, and discovered that Minister Ayres is a mate of this guy, that he mentioned him in his maiden speech. Knowing that, a basic desktop due diligence would pick that up. Surely you then say, we better keep the documentation because there's a conflict of interest here.
So I'll just clarify. As I said before, the department did undertake desktop due diligence. It did provide the advice on the outcomes of that due diligence through the usual process of briefing ministers. All documentation on conflicts of interest, on expertise, on legal requirements and the like were provided in the usual way, as they were for all other appointments.
Was a conflict of interest documented?
All conflicts of interest and all other documentation in the exact same way was provided to Cabinet for all appointments to the National Reconstruction Fund. The step that was missed was the real-time desktop search saving to the IT system. That is a process step by the officer involved. That is a very small part of the overall process of the appointment process, to which the ANAO provided a mostly positive response. They made the observation, as they do in all audits, and I would just make the note that it's a default standard pretty much for all audits about making sure that people record and provide information. We absolutely accept that those records should have been saved into the department IT system so that there was a real-time contemporaneous record of what was happening. That step was missed, but the work was done. It has been verified by talking to the officers involved. The ANAO, that's why they're very specific in their records, which is about saving the records. They did not question whether the due diligence was undertaken. They did not question the advice provided to government. They did not question the process of of providing advice to Cabinet. So I just want to be very careful about what they have said and what they haven't said. So it is about saving the records in the IT system at the time. And of course we accept that that would have been a system that was undertaken. It was missed on the day.
Hard to be transparent if it accidentally falls into the bin.
There was no extraneous pressure. There was no issues in this process, and we followed the same steps in subsequent appointments to the National Reconstruction Fund
Okay, we're going to move on.